Hi, and welcome to the fourth ever episode of Countersteer. I'm Ryan, and here we try to give bite-sized chunks of automotive history. We're a new podcast, so if we fumble something along the way, please forgive us. I find cars fascinating, and I hope that you will too. And with that now, let's get started on the Lexus LS400. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only person into cars who obsesses crazily over a car for like a day or two and then loses interest, right? Well, lately, I've been obsessing over the Lexus LS400. Now let's talk about the story of it and how it came to be. And to do that, we have to go take a trip back in time to the golden age of Japanese cars, in my mind. In the 1990s, Japanese automakers were brimming with money. Naturally, being rich led to spending on basically anything they wanted, right? And so that often led to the creation of new, maybe somehow possibly viable technology that could come and manifest its way into cars. Mazda was very much into rotary engines and their development, which led to the creation of cult classics like the Mazda RX-7 and the lesser-known Mazda Cosmo, which I still think is a really cool car. Nissan, for some odd reason, decided that the past should be relived, and they created the Nissan Figaro, quite an oddball car. Toyota created the Toyota Serra, which is basically a fairly average car, really, just with gull-wing doors, that would later go on to inspire Gordon Murray in his McLaren F1. But for me, the title goes to Subaru for the most far-fetched idea. That wasn't on my bingo card. For the longest time, Subaru had been creating small, quirky cars like the Brat and also the Subaru XT. But they decided enough was enough, and that they were going to create an arguably beautiful, all-wheel drive grand touring car. And thus the Subaru SVX was born. It's a shame those cars were such a horrible fail because I actually think they're quite cool, but I guess a lot of people don't. But back to the story. To understand why that Lexus LS400 came to be, we gotta move back to the land of freedom. Now, let's do some role playing, not in a weird way, right? So picture the scene. It's 1988, and you're a rich, middle-aged American entrepreneur. You made lots of money, and naturally, you want to buy a luxury car, as these new-age sports cars of the 90s were for these young hooligans with daddy's money, am I right? Well, you had two options. One, you could stay American and buy something American, which, to be quite frank, would be garbage. Or two, you could splurge and choose something European. You know, those exotic Jaguars and BMWs and Mercedes and things. However, getting and maintaining one of those European cars in the late 80s wasn't exactly the easiest task. And so that dilemma is exactly what the Japanese capitalized on. And so Toyota chairman, I don't know why I put a pause, but Toyota chairman at the same time started to create the top secret F1 project. Of course, this isn't the same F1 you're thinking about, as it stood rather for Flagship 1. And just like the McLaren F1 that it shares its name with, there was no budget constraint. That's the crazy thing. No budget constraint, just do whatever you want, right? And so, as mentioned earlier, Toyota was brimming with money, and now they finally had found a good place to spend a good chunk of it. And so, I don't want to get too much into the numbers and all the details and blah blah blah, but I wanted to go over some like massive automotive giant mind-numbing numbers, right? Naturally, Toyota being Toyota and filthy rich, they had 60 designers and 1,400 engineers. 1,400 is crazy. They built 450 prototypes for the car with 900 engine prototypes. They revised their design 900 times and actually built it to find that perfect one. And in total, of course, paying 1,400 engineers and 60 designers and blah, blah, blah takes a lot of money, right? In total, it took $1 billion, with a B, of Toyota's money for the total development expenses. And, of course, it's important to put some context to these numbers, though, right? Toyota was rich, but, like, billions of dollars is still a lot of money, right? So, and they weren't able to just throw that towards a single car. And the reason they really went through all this massive effort was because this LS400, codenamed F1, was going to be Lexus's flagship car, right? And Lexus was going to be the flagship mark for Toyota and be the sort of luxury side of Toyota. And so they really wanted this car to be a success, and doing well and having this be a success meant that there would be a stable brand and they could rely, or Toyota could rely on the brand bringing money in. Screwing this up would mean not just $1 billion down the drain, but also a bad reputation for Lexus and Toyota, right? So stakes are quite high. And of course, it was a total success. I mean, like, total, in the whole meaning of the word success. Toyota came into the American market, right? Which they originally had intended to do. And Nissan dealers, not Nissan, Japanese dealers actually, originally Toyota wasn't going to bring the LS400 to Japanese dealers because there's so many obstacles. You have to pay so many taxes for Japanese people to own the car because it's over like the K car dimension size, so there's not like good tax benefits in like small cities and stuff. Not amazing, right? But all the Japanese dealers were like, oh my god, I want this car and I want to sell it, right? So they brought it and they made the Japanese only model, the JDM version, and they called it the Toyota Celsior. I think I'm saying that right. And so that was also a huge success. But back to like the overall picture, right? Toyota came into the American market, underpriced all of its competitors in the luxury scene by thousands of dollars for the base model. That's crazy. Thousands of dollars, like multiple thousands. Back in 1988 or 89 when it came out was a lot of money. Yeah. And so it's crazy, right? So around 1 year after the launch of the car, it surpassed all of its competitors, right? European or American, which is just mind-numbing to think about, right? They were like at the top of their game just like a year after they launched the car. And also when you launch a car and it's so successful, right? It cements your brand amazingly. Yeah, and so their customer service side is also really an amazing thing to think about. There's this really cool story of how two customers that come to Lexus, right, with their brand new amazing LS400s, right, and they complained of defective wiring. And of course, Lexus was like, oh my god, this is going to ruin my reputation. So they voluntarily recalled 8,000 new cars to fix the defects that only two people had complained of. And so that was like, oh my god, Lexus is really serious about this. And so that really cemented Lexus's customer service reputation. Like, hey, if we're gonna buy a car, these guys know and they'll take care of us. And so all in all, they sold 165,000 units, which Toyota and I would call a success, right? And so with that, we come to the end of the journey through the Lexus LS400. From the massive development efforts of $1 billion to the global success, the LS400 was an automotive icon. And so join us next time on Countersteer, whenever that is, only time will tell. I'm still deciding on what car I should do next, so give me some ideas in the comments. Thanks, and have a nice day.